In the blinding spotlight of global superstardom, where millions of voices scream their names in unison and the world watches their every move, the 7 members of BTS stand as the undisputed kings of the modern era. They are the idols who have captured hearts from Seoul to San Francisco, the men who seem to have it all: talent, wealth, charm, and a love for their fans that transcends borders. We often spend hours obsessing over their ideal types, memorizing that they like someone with long hair, someone who cooks well, or someone who looks good in a simple white t-shirt. But have you ever stopped to ask the darker, more difficult question? What makes them run away? What are the absolute deal breakers that would make these polite, compassionate men turn their backs on a potential romance? Tonight, we are flipping the script. We are not looking for the perfect match. We are hunting for the fatal flaws. Drawing from years of candid interviews, subtle personality cues, deep psychological traits, and the raw reality of their high-pressure lifestyles, we have compiled the ultimate list of incompatible traits. This is a journey into the hidden preferences of RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. Are you too chaotic for the perfectionist? Too clingy for the free spirit? Or perhaps too insensitive for the empath? The answers might sting, or they might save you. This isn't just a countdown, it is a reality check for every dreamer holding a light stick. Prepare your hearts, face the truth, and ask yourself, are you the one they desire, or are you the one they would never put a ring on? Let's unravel the mystery. Number 7. J-Hope and the chaotic pessimist who disrespects the sanctuary of order, the girl who drains the sunshine. To understand why this specific type of woman is the ultimate kryptonite for Jung Ho-seok, we must first peel back the layers of the man the world knows as J-Hope. On the surface, he is the radiant son of BTS, the man with the million-watt smile who introduces himself as "Your hope, you're my hope." We see him laughing on variety shows, making sound effects, and lifting the mood of the entire group. However, true armies and those who have analyzed the documentary footage from Times Burn the Stage, Times and Times in the Soup Times know that there is a darker, more serious, and intensely professional side to him, often referred to as General Young. Ho-seok is not just a happy-go-lucky dancer. He is the disciplinarian of the group, the one who corrects the choreography with laser focus, the one who demands perfection because he respects the stage. This creates a psychological profile of a man who craves order, cleanliness, and positive energy, not just as a preference, but as a survival mechanism. He lives in a world of high-stakes chaos airports, screaming crowds, flashing lights, and grueling schedules. When he comes home to his luxury apartment in the Trimage complex, surrounded by his meticulously arranged cause figures and Murakami art pieces, he needs a sanctuary that reflects the peace he cannot find outside. This is where the chaotic pessimist becomes his absolute deal-breaker. J-Hope would never marry a woman who is disorganized, messy, or inherently negative. Imagine a partner who leaves clothes strewn across his expensive furniture, who doesn't respect the sanctity of his personal space, or who treats his carefully curated home like a dumping ground. For a man who used to clean up after the other members in the dorms because he couldn't stand the mess, a spouse who lacks basic hygiene and organizational discipline would be a constant source of low-level stress that would eventually explode. But it goes deeper than just physical mess. It is about emotional hygiene. J-Hope carries the burden of being the mood maker. He is the emotional battery charger for RM, Suga, and the younger members. He is constantly giving energy. If he were to marry a woman who is a pessimist, someone who constantly complains, sees the glass as half empty, or relies on him to fix her bad moods, he would burn out. He cannot come home from a 14-hour rehearsal where he had to smile through exhaustion, only to face a partner who brings a dark cloud into his living room. He needs a mirror of his own brightness, or at least someone who can maintain their own emotional stability. In interviews, he has hinted at liking women who are supportive, thoughtful, and detail-oriented traits that are the exact opposite of the chaotic pessimist. A woman who ignores the small details, who forgets promises, or who approaches life with a heavy, cynical energy, would clash violently with his ethos. We must also consider his professional drive. J-Hope is a perfectionist. A partner who is lazy, who doesn't understand the value of hard work, or who mocks his dedication to precision, would feel like a stranger to him. He is attracted to competence. The chaotic pessimist represents everything he fights against in his career: disorder, laziness, and negativity. Marrying such a person would be like locking a bird in a cage without air. The sunshine would fade, and General Jung would be left managing a relationship like it was a difficult choreography session rather than finding the rest he so desperately deserves. He doesn't need a project, he needs a partner who respects the rhythm of his life. Therefore, the girl who brings chaos and gloom is the one ring he will never buy. Number 6. Jimin and the cold-hearted pragmatist who invalidates his effort, the girl who cannot speak the language of the heart. To truly grasp the devastating incompatibility of this match, we must first descend into the delicate, crystalline soul of Park Jimin. He is not merely a member of BTS, he is the group's emotional barometer, the angel, who is famously the first to rush to a crying member's side. The man who wrote Promise as a desperate plea for self-comfort during his darkest hours. Jimin operates on a frequency of high emotional intelligence and intense sensitivity. From the grueling days of his trainee period, where he was nearly cut from the lineup multiple times, to the solitary nights he spent sleeping in the practice room just to prove his worth, his entire existence has been a quest for validation, acceptance, and a deep, da-pom, resonating connection. He is a man who loves loudly and visibly. We have seen him gift the other members thoughtful presence. We have watched him backhug them with an almost desperate need for physical contact. And we have heard him speak about wanting a love that is as grand and consuming as the movie times The Notebook *. Now, imagine placing this man, a man who defines himself by his ability to give warmth into a marriage, with the cold-hearted pragmatist. This woman is the antithesis of the romance Jimin craves. She is the type who views grand gestures as cringe, who pulls away from public displays of affection, and who values logic and efficiency over emotional expression. For Jimin, whose love language is undeniably physical touch and words of affirmation, this dynamic wouldn't just be difficult, it would be a slow, agonizing suffocation of his spirit. Let's paint a realistic picture based on his known behaviors. Imagine Jimin coming home after a 3-week stadium tour, his body aching from the physical toll of performing Set Me Free Patain 2, his mind buzzing with the adrenaline of the crowd. He walks through the door, desperate for a soft landing, perhaps holding a small, thoughtful gift he picked up at an airport boutique. He expects a warm embrace, you did well, a moment of shared vulnerability. Instead, the pragmatist barely looks up from her phone, laptop, offers a cursory nod, and asks if he remembered to take out the recycling. She doesn't understand why he needs to be hugged for 5 minutes straight. She finds his constant need for reassurance needy or childish. This rejection would trigger the deepest insecurities Jimin has fought for a decade to conquer. We must remember the Jimins of the past, the Jimin who starved himself during the Times Blood, Sweat, and Tears Times era because he thought he wasn't good enough visually, the Jimin who cried in Times Burn the Stage Times because his voice cracked. He is a perfectionist who is brutally hard on himself. In a partner, he needs a cheerleader, a safe harbor who can counter his inner critic with overwhelming, undeniable love. The cold-hearted pragmatist, with her dry realism and lack of emotional nuance, would inadvertently confirm his worst fears, that he is too much, that his efforts are annoying, that his love is a burden. She wouldn't necessarily be a bad person, but her inability to reciprocate his intensity would make him feel perpetually lonely within the marriage. Jimin has a distinct playful side he loves to tease, to be cute, to engage in the situational skits the members do. He needs a girl who can play ball, who can laugh at his antics and offer a witty, affectionate retort. A woman who is too serious, too rigid, or too cool to engage in this playfulness would make him shut down. The light in his eyes, that famous eye smile that has charmed millions, would dim if he came home to a wall of ice. Furthermore, Jimin is deeply sentimental. He treasures memories, photos, and the small artifacts of relationships. The pragmatist, who likely throws away old letters and forgets anniversaries because it's just a day, would crush his romantic heart. He wants the fairy tale. He wants the destiny he sang about in Serendipity. Just let me love you. If the woman he marries treats his love as a transaction or a routine rather than a destiny, it creates a fundamental disconnect. In the Times FaceTimes album era, we saw a Jimin confronting his loneliness and inner demons. He doesn't need a partner who adds to that isolation by being emotionally unavailable. He needs a mirror that reflects his warmth back at him, doubled. A marriage to a woman who cannot verbally articulate her feelings or physically demonstrate her desire would leave the Prince of Busan feeling like a beggar in his own castle. He wouldn't leave immediately. He would try harder because that is who he is. He would pour more love into the void, hoping to fill it until he was completely empty. And that is a tragedy he is wise enough to avoid. He knows now, more than ever, that he deserves a love that is as soft, responsive, and beautiful as the songs he writes. Therefore, the girl who keeps her heart locked in a box of logic is the one girl Jimin would never, ever marry. Number 5. RM and the intellectual void who mocks his depth, the girl who cannot read between the lines. To comprehend the absolute impossibility of this union, we must step into the vast museum-like corridors of Kim Namjoon's mind. The world knows him as RM, the charismatic leader of BTS, the genius with the IQ of 148 who taught himself English by watching Time's Friends*, the eloquent spokesman who stood before the United Nations and urged the youth of the world to speak yourself. But behind the podiums and the platinum records lies a man who is deeply, achingly philosophical, a man who is less of a pop star and more of a poet trapped in an idol's body. He is a sapiosexual in the truest sense. He is seduced not by flashy clothes or perfect makeup, but by a sharp mind, a curious spirit, and a conversation that can last until 4 a.m. This brings us to his ultimate anti-match, the intellectual void. This is not about education level or degrees. RM has made it clear he respects wisdom in all forms. This is about a lack of curiosity. It is about the type of woman who lives entirely on the surface, who finds deep conversations boring or too heavy, and who mocks the very things that give Namjoon's life meaning. Imagine the scene. It is a rare day off. Namjoon wants to go Namjooning, his beloved term for riding a bicycle along the Han River, observing nature, or visiting a quiet art gallery to stare at a moon jar or a painting by Yoon Hyung-kyun. He wants to share this sacred silence with his wife. But the intellectual void is impatient. She is scrolling through social media, complaining that the museum is dusty, asking why he is staring at a plain white jar for 20 minutes, and urging him to leave so they can go somewhere fun and loud. She doesn't see the art, she sees a boring object. She doesn't feel the history, she feels the time wasting. For RM, this isn't just a difference in hobbies, it is a rejection of his soul. We must analyze the lyrics of his solo album Times Indigo Times to understand this better. In tracks like Wildflower, he speaks of the desire to live not as a firework that explodes and vanishes, but as a wildflower that stays close to the ground and endures. He craves authenticity. A woman who is obsessed with the superficial, with brand names for the sake of status, with gossip, with the fleeting trends of the moment would be alien to him. He needs a partner who can ground him. When the weight of leading the biggest boy band in the world becomes too heavy, when the pressure of the music industry threatens to crush him, he needs a sanctuary where he can discuss his fears, his reading list, his thoughts on eternity and existence. If he comes home to a wife whose eyes glaze over when he talks about a book he just read, or who tells him he thinks too much, he would feel a profound, crushing loneliness. It is the loneliness of the genius who is surrounded by people but understood by no one. RM has admitted in the past that he can be a bit clumsy and destructive in daily life, the god of destruction. So he needs someone practical, yes, but more than that, he needs a mental sparring partner. He needs a woman who can challenge his ideas, who has her own strong opinions, who can look at a sunset and see more than just a photo opportunity. The intellectual void is also likely to be the type who is embarrassed by his sentimental side. Namjoon stops to look at crabs. He finds joy in the smallest creatures. A partner who finds this childish or weird would be killing the boy inside him that he tries so hard to protect. Furthermore, RM is a man of words. Words are his tools, his weapons, and his comfort. He writes letters, he crafts lyrics with double and triple entendres. He needs a woman who understands the nuance of language, who can read between the lines of what he is saying. If he marries someone who takes everything literally, who cannot grasp the subtle emotional currents he is trying to convey, the communication would break down instantly. He would be speaking poetry, and she would be hearing noise. We have seen RM's ideal type evolve over the years, but the constant has always been sexy brain, someone who can match his wavelength. A relationship with a woman who lacks depth would be like a library with no books. Beautiful structure, perhaps, but ultimately empty and echoing. He would eventually retreat into himself, finding more connection with his bonsai trees than with the woman sleeping next to him. And for a man who has spent his youth screaming to be heard, being silenced by the shallowness of his own marriage is a fate he would never accept. He wants a muse, a critic, a lover, and a best friend all wrapped in one complex, intelligent package. The girl who offers nothing but surface-level sparkle is the one girl RM would never, ever marry. Number 4. V and the cold elitist who disrespects family, the girl who cannot embrace his inner child. To uncover the heart of the matter regarding Kim Tae-young, the man the world reveres as V, we must look past the Gucci outfits, the Celine ambassadorships, and the title of Most Handsome Face in the World. Beneath the breathtaking visuals lies a soul that is undeniably old school, deeply sentimental, and profoundly rooted in the values of family and innocence. V is an enigma, a man who loves classical jazz, who plays the trumpet, who paints in his free time, and who finds more joy in a quiet walk with his dog Yantan than in the wildest celebrity parties. He is a romance anachronism, a man who seems to belong to a slower, more genuine era. This unique vibration makes his incompatibility with the cold elitist not just a preference but a spiritual necessity. This type of woman, the elitist, is someone who values status over soul, appearance over authenticity, and hierarchy over humanity. For V, whose ultimate role model is his father, and whose dream is to have a happy family with many children, a partner who lacks maternal warmth or family values is the ultimate deal-breaker. Imagine the scenario. Tae-young takes this woman back to his hometown in Daegu to meet his family. This is the most sacred circle of his life. He is excited, perhaps wearing comfortable, baggy clothes, eager to eat his grandmother's recipes and sit on the floor with his relatives. The elitist, however, is visibly uncomfortable. She scans the room with judgment, refusing to sit on the floor because it might wrinkle her designer dress, checking her watch constantly, and offering curt, polite smiles that never reach her eyes. She treats his parents with a stiff formality rather than the warmth he cherishes. When his younger cousins or nephews run up to play, she recoils, worried about sticky hands or finding their energy annoying. For V, who has explicitly stated in multiple interviews that he wants to be a father who is like a friend to his children, a dad who plays, listens, and nurtures, seeing a potential wife treat children with coldness or disdain would shatter his attraction instantly. It wouldn't matter how beautiful she is. In that moment, she would look ugly to him. He operates on a frequency of jong, deep emotional connection. She operates on a frequency of ego. We must also consider V's unique personality, often described by fans as Tada Mike, energy unpredictable, whimsical, and free. He is not afraid to make silly faces, to act out skits, or to speak in Tay-Tay language. He retains a beautiful, childlike wonder about the world. He stops to look at dandelions. He talks to animals. The elitist type, who is obsessed with image and propriety, would find this behavior embarrassing. She would be the type to whisper, "Stop it, people are watching," or "Act your age," or "Be serious for once." These words would be poison to V's soul. He thrives on being understood for his quirks, not managed or corrected. A woman who tries to polish him into a standard, boring celebrity mold would be suppressing the very spark that makes him V. He needs a partner who will not only tolerate his inner child, but play along with it, someone who will wear the funny costume, who will dance to the slow jazz in the living room without caring how it looks, who will understand that his silence isn't emptiness, but deep thought. Furthermore, let's look at his solo era, asterisk, layover asterisk. The entire album is a testament to his desire for a relaxed, unhurried pace of life. Slow dancing is his anthem. The cold elitist is often a type A personality, rushed, ambitious to a fault, and obsessed with the next achievement. She would view his desire to just be as laziness or lack of drive. She would push him to network, to attend the right galas, to maximize his brand, while he just wants to go to a park and take photos of the clouds. The friction would be unbearable. V is highly observant. He notices the small things. He notices how people treat staff, how they treat animals, how they react to mistakes. If he saw his wife snapping at a waiter, ignoring a beggar, or kicking a stray cat away, his respect for her would evaporate. He values kindness above coolness. The elitist focuses on being cool and exclusive. V focuses on being warm and inclusive. In the end, V is looking for a best friend kind of love, a love that feels like a warm winter coat or a cup of hot cocoa. He wants the domestic bliss he sees in movies, cooking together, laughing at nothing, the chaotic joy of raising kids. A woman who views children as a burden to her lifestyle or family obligations as a nuisance stands in direct opposition to everything Kim Tae-young holds dear. He would rather be alone with Yeontan and his records than be married to a queen who rules with a cold heart. He needs a home, not a showroom. He needs a mother for his future children, not a socialite for his arm. Therefore, the girl who looks down on the world and refuses to get her hands dirty with the messiness of love and family is the one girl V would never ever marry. Number 3. Suga and the high-maintenance drama queen who invades his solitude, the girl who fears silence. To penetrate the fortress that is Min Yoongi, the man known to the world as Suga and the raw, unfiltered rapper August D, we must first understand the architecture of his soul. Yoongi is not your typical pop idol. He is a producer first, a celebrity second. He is a man who has openly stated that in his next life, he wants to be born as a rock, a testament to his profound, desperate need for stillness. While the other members might recharge by going out or meeting friends, Yoongi recharges in the dark, in the silence, within the soundproof walls of his genius lab. His studio is not just a workplace, it is his sanctuary, his church, the only place where he feels truly safe to bleed his emotions into music. This brings us to the ultimate catastrophic mismatch for him, the high-maintenance drama queen. This is the type of woman who equates silence with rejection, who views independence as indifference, and who requires a constant stream of attention, validation, and entertainment to feel secure. For a man like Suga, marrying this type of woman would be akin to living inside a ringing alarm clock that never shuts off. Let us visualize the reality of his life. Suga often works until 4 or 5 a.m., obsessing over a single snare drum sound or a lyric line. When he finally emerges, exhausted, his social battery is completely depleted. He is in power-saving mode. A compatible partner understands this rhythm. She would perhaps leave a warm meal on the table and let him sleep, or sit beside him in comfortable silence reading a book. But the drama queen would take his exhaustion personally. She would be the one waiting at the door, arms crossed, asking, "Why didn't you text me back for 6 hours?" Or, "You love your music more than me." She would drag him into petty arguments about not receiving enough attention, demanding that he prove his love through grand, loud gestures that make him cringe. This dynamic would be the death knell of their relationship. Yoongi has a very low tolerance for unnecessary drama. He is a pragmatist. He solves problems. If he is met with emotional volatility and irrational demands, he shuts down. We have seen this unbothered energy in interviews when things get chaotic. He goes quiet. In a marriage, if his home becomes a source of chaos rather than a place of rest, he would retreat entirely into his work, effectively ending the emotional connection. Furthermore, we must consider his tsundere nature, cold on the outside, warm on the inside. His love language is acts of service, often performed silently. He is the type to quietly fix a broken doorknob or buy you water without you asking. The high-maintenance girl, however, typically craves words of affirmation and constant verbal reassurance. She would overlook his quiet acts of care because she is too busy waiting for the Hollywood-style romance that Yoongi is incapable of faking. She would complain that he is cold or boring, unaware that by demanding him to be someone else, she is rejecting the most authentic parts of him. Yoongi values people who are similar to me, people who are calm, wise, and emotionally self-sufficient. He needs a partner who is an island unto herself, someone who has her own passions and doesn't need him to complete her, but to complement her. The drama queen is usually codependent. She needs him to be her entire world. This weight is too heavy for Yoongi to carry. He has spent years battling his own mental shadows, documented rawly in his mixtapes times August D times and times D2 asterisk. He manages his mental health by maintaining a calm, predictable environment. A partner who brings high highs and low lows, who thrives on conflict or emotional turbulence, would threaten the hard-won peace he has built for himself. We also cannot ignore his lifestyle preference. On his days off, Yoongi wants to do nothing, Literally nothing. Maybe drink some whiskey, watch a basketball game, or just sleep. The drama queen who wants to be seen, who wants to drag him to parties, high-end restaurants, or social gatherings to show him off, would be physically and mentally draining for him. He hates crowds when he is off the clock. He hates superficial socializing. If his wife forces him into these situations, he would resent her. He needs a homebody alliance. Think of his talk show, Suchwita**. The conversations he enjoys are deep, real, and often subdued. He connects on a level of shared struggle and artistic integrity. A woman who is shallow, who cares more about the clout of being Mrs. Min Yoongi than understanding the human Min Yoongi would be transparent to him immediately. He has a built-in radar for fake people. The high-maintenance girl often cares deeply about optics, how the relationship times looks times to others. Yoongi cares only about how the relationship times feels **. The friction between his desire for privacy and her desire for a spotlight would be insurmountable. Suga is a man who looks for a long-term companion, a soulmate who can sit with him in the dark and not feel the need to fill the silence with chatter. He wants a mature love, a love that is stable like the earth, not volatile like fire. A woman who brings drama, who plays mind games, or who cannot sit alone with her own thoughts is fundamentally incompatible with the genius producer. He would not fight her, he would simply leave, quietly closing the door to his lab, choosing the solitude of his music over the noise of her demands. Therefore, the girl who cannot embrace the beauty of silence is the one girl Suga would never ever marry. Number 2, Jin and the disrespectful boundary crosser who hates his humor, the girl who cannot respect the Mathyoung. To understand the fatal flaw of this specific romantic pairing, we must first look beyond the dazzling mirror that is Kim Sok-jin. Yes, he is worldwide handsome, the man whose face has been scientifically proven to be perfect, the visual god who went viral simply by opening a car door. But beneath the silver voice and the flying kisses lies the spine of BTS, the Mathyoung, eldest brother. Jin is a man of profound contradictions. He is the oldest, yet he acts the youngest to make the others comfortable. He is incredibly wealthy and successful, yet he finds his greatest joy in simple things like fishing, gaming for 16 hours straight, and making dad jokes. This complexity creates a very specific set of requirements for a life partner, and it highlights exactly why the disrespectful boundary crosser is his ultimate romantic nightmare. This type of woman is the one who lacks nunchi, emotional intelligence, situational awareness, who mocks his methods of connection, and who fails to show the basic human decency and respect that Jin holds as a core value. Let's dissect the dad joke phenomenon. To the casual observer and to the boundary crosser, Jin's constant puns and loud laughter might seem like mere goofiness or a desperate cry for attention. This type of woman would be the one to roll her eyes at a dinner party whispering, "Stop, you're embarrassing me," or "Act your age." She would view his humor as a flaw to be fixed. However, she fails to understand the psychological architecture of Kim Sok-jin. Jin uses humor as a shield and a bridge. He jokes to lower the hierarchy, to make the younger members feel safe attacking him, to diffuse tension in high-stress situations. His humor is an act of service. It is his way of saying, "I will be the clown so you don't have to be nervous." A wife who doesn't understand this, who criticizes his levity, is rejecting his fundamental way of caring for the world. Imagine Jin coming home after a stressful day of recording, trying to lighten the mood with a silly pun, only to be met with a cold stare and a lecture on maturity. It would crush him. He doesn't need a critic. He needs an audience of one who laughs even when the joke is bad, simply because he times is the one telling it. Furthermore, we must talk about respect and manners. Jin is a man deeply rooted in traditional values. He was the disciplinarian of the group in the early days, the one who drove Jungkook to school, the one who taught them etiquette. He has zero tolerance for rudeness. The disrespectful boundary crosser is the type of girl who is rude to waiters, who ignores elders, or who treats people based on their utility rather than their humanity. If Jin saw his wife snapping at a staff member or failing to bow to a senior, his attraction would turn to ice instantly. He values manners maketh man. He is also fiercely protective of his privacy. Jin is the member who has most successfully kept his private life, his family, his non-celebrity friends completely out of the spotlight. He draws a hard line in the sand. The boundary crosser is the type who would try to exploit his fame, who would secretly snap photos of his family to post on social media, or who would gossip about his members to her friends. For Jin, trust is everything. A betrayal of his privacy is a betrayal of his heart. He needs a vault, not a leak. We also have to consider his gamercore lifestyle. Jin is an unapologetic homebody. He can spend entire days in front of a computer screen leveling up in MapleStory. It is his meditation, his escape from the pressures of being an idol. The incompatible woman is the one who nags him to go out, who calls his gaming a waste of time, or who tries to force him into a high society lifestyle of galas and networking events. Jin has made it clear he likes to rest. He likes to do nothing. A partner who brings the frantic energy of the outside world into his sanctuary, who cannot respect his need to just be user Kim Seokjin rather than BTS Jin, would be exhausting. He needs a player too, or at least someone who will bring him cut fruit while he raids a dungeon, not someone who pulls the plug on his computer. Finally, we must look at the hidden depths revealed in songs like Abyss and Awake. Jin struggles with imposter syndrome, with the feeling that he might not be enough, that he is holding the others back. These are dark, heavy thoughts that he hides behind his smile. The boundary crosser, who only sees the surface, would dismiss these feelings. She might say, "You're rich and famous, what do you have to be sad about?" Minimizing his pain. Jin needs deep emotional safety. He needs a woman who can see past the worldwide handsome mask and hold the hand of the man who feels like he is drifting in the deep ocean. He needs someone who validates his hard work, not just his results. He wants a companion who is low maintenance, respectful, and warm, someone who can eat a good meal with him, laugh at his windshield wiper laugh, and respect the boundaries he has set to keep his sanity intact. The girl who pushes, pries, and judges is the one girl Kim Seokjin would never ever marry.
Number 1. Jungkook and the controlling conformist who cages his wild spirit, the girl who fears his true self. And finally, we arrive at the apex, the ultimate heartthrob, the golden maknae who has evolved into the global pop star of the century, Jungkook. To understand the absolute non-negotiable deal-breaker for this unstoppable force of nature, we must look at the trajectory of his entire life. Jungkook is not just a singer. He is a boy who sacrificed his adolescence to the world, a man who was raised by 6 older brothers and millions of cameras. For years, he was the doe-eyed baby of the group, the obedient youngest member. But pay close attention to the last few years, the era of Time's golden asterisk, the era of 7, and standing next to you. We are witnessing a man violently and beautifully claiming his own autonomy. He has covered his arm in tattoos, pierced his lip and eyebrow, and cut his hair in styles that defied the traditional, clean-cut idol image. He live streams at 4 a.m., falls asleep in front of millions, cooks perilla oil noodles in the middle of the night, and folds his underwear on camera. This is a man screaming for freedom. This is a man who is finally, after a decade of being molded, living life on his own terms. Therefore, the ultimate antithesis to his soul, the one woman he could never, ever marry, is the controlling conformist. This is the woman who loves Jungkook the idol, but fears Jungkook the human. This is the partner who is obsessed with rules, with public image, and with fitting into a polite, suffocating box of societal expectations. Imagine a wife who looks at the artwork on his right arm, the tiger lily, the microphone, the eye, and asks him to wear long sleeves at dinner because it looks unprofessional. To Jungkook, those tattoos are not just ink. They are his history, his scars, and his declarations of self. A woman who rejects his physical expression is rejecting the very journey he took to find himself. She represents the cage he just broke out of. We must dive deeper into his psychology. Jungkook is a person of extreme passion and instinct. When he loves something, be it boxing, playing the drums, or cooking, he dives in 100%. He is a genius not because things come easy, but because he obsesses over them until he masters them. The conformist is typically risk-averse. She plays it safe. She would look at his sudden desire to go camping in the rain or his impulse to build a completely new house from scratch and call it reckless or irrational. She would try to tame him. But you cannot tame a wild tiger without breaking its spirit. If Jungkook were married to a woman who constantly nagged him about his sleep schedule, or lack thereof, who criticized his late-night karaoke sessions as noise, or who tried to manage his friendships, he would feel suffocated. He has lived under strict management since he was 15 years old. The last thing he wants in a wife is another manager. He needs a partner in crime, a Bonnie to his Clyde, someone who says, "You want to drive to Busan at 3 a.m.? Let's go." The controlling conformist would kill his creativity. Look at his solo album times golden asterisk. It is eclectic, jumping from UK garage to R&B to pop. It reflects a man who refuses to be pinned down to one genre. A partner who lacks this flexibility, who is rigid in her thinking, would bore him to tears. Jungkook has famously said in the past, referencing his ideal type, that he likes someone who is good at what they do, someone smart. He is attracted to competence and passion. The conformist often lacks her own fire. She is too busy worrying about what the neighbors think. Jungkook, who has conquered the world, has zero interest in the opinions of the neighbors. Furthermore, we must talk about Bam. His Doberman is not just a pet, he is family. Bam is a big, energetic, powerful dog, a reflection of his owner. A high-strung or controlling woman might find a large dog messy, inconvenient, or scary. If she cannot embrace the chaos of living with a large dog and a husband who acts like a playful puppy himself, the household would be a war zone. Jungkook operates on pure, raw emotion and sincerity. He cries easily when he is moved. He loves deeply. The conformist often values stoicism and propriety. She would find his emotional outbursts dramatic. Imagine him crying after a concert because he felt he made a mistake, something he has done many times, and his wife telling him to man up or get over it. It would sever the emotional bond instantly. He needs a safe harbor where he can be vulnerable, where he can be the little boy again, not a stage where he has to perform perfection. Finally, consider his recent behavior. He deletes his Instagram to get off the grid, then hops on Weverse to talk to armies for hours like close friends. He craves authentic connection over curated perfection. The controlling conformist is all about curation. She would want the perfect wedding photos, the perfect press releases, the perfect public appearances. Jungkook just wants to eat good food, smell good scents. He is very sensitive to smell. And be with someone who feels like home. A woman who brings the stench of judgment and the chains of control into his life is the ultimate enemy of his happiness. He has fought too hard for his freedom to hand the keys over to a jailkeeper. He wants a love that feels like a breath of fresh air, not a corset. Therefore, the girl who tries to clip the wings of the golden matinee is the one girl Jungkook would never, ever marry.